Hello and welcome to another episode of Spirit Plant Medicine here on Conscious Living Network, Conscious Living TV, and even Conscious Living Radio. My name is Marc Caron, and I'm really excited to introduce some members of our panel today as we get started. And I'm really excited about this program. We're going to be seeing empowering change, the collaborative approaches in addiction and recovery with ketamine-assisted therapy. So today, our guests, I'm really happy to introduce Helen Loshny, Dr. Ray St. Arnaud, and Madison Hobbs. Dr. Ray and Helen, it's interesting as the common thread that brings us here together is a Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. And, it's always a pleasure to see it and hear the stories of how you met and really kind of birthed your work together with Empower Health and the things that you're doing in the world of psychedelics. So I just want to thank you to the program, thank you and welcome you to the program. And as well, Madison, who's a registered nurse working with Empower Health and the team here in Vancouver on Commercial Drive. Welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the rest of our panel quickly, and I'm going to let the gang take the program away so that they can share their work that they're doing with the ketamine program. So, Michael, if you can bring up everybody here, that would be great. We have Michelle Falcone here as well now in the end joining us, and she's the founder and executive director of the Change Space Foundation. And we also have Marc Dubé, James Short, and Mick Dosanjh, who are three gentlemen who participated in the program, and they're going to be sharing with you their story and their experience and what it's done for them. So as we get started, I'm going to let Mr. Marc Dubé set the stage for everyone, and I'll be here in the background supporting with anything you guys need. Have a great program, and I look forward to hearing what you have to share. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, Marc. So in opening, we have a global mental health and addictions crisis. In Canada alone, it's estimated that over 4 million people have a substance use disorder. That's 21% of people ages 15 and older that are engaging in high-risk drinking. We have an alarming opioid crisis, with more than 12,000 deaths being reported since 2016. We've had 6 to 7 deaths per day reported in 2023. You add the deaths associated with alcoholism, and then for a moment consider the greater impact on mothers, fathers, siblings, friends, the strain on people working in systems of care. There are also studies indicating that 50% of people with substance use disorder also are affected by mental health disorders, such as anxiety and depression. This all emphasizes the pressing need for accessible education, prevention, treatment programs, and in some cases, radical solutions to effectively address complexities in addiction in communities across the country. And that is exactly what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. So yeah, it's just firstly to say it's just been so inspiring to be a part of this process and to embark on this collaboration. And yeah, thank you so much, Marc, for sharing. We know it comes from, direct experience, personal experience that you've had, and also your work supporting Together We Can. And so just, yeah, so, looking forward to being able to share about this alongside you all. So the three organizations that we have here together have come together, formed a collaborative effort and have launched a program called the Integrated Recovery Program. And what that program is a holistic program designed to comprehensively support men recovering from health, which is a wellness center that is on Commercial Drive in East Vancouver, providing integrated care services. Was initially founded as a clinic in 2014, so has been around for 10 years, really refining and providing progressive and transformative healthcare services. And now has embarked on a partnership with Together We Can Addiction Recovery Education Society and Change Space Foundation to provide this program, which really recognizes that substance use often stems from the deeper issues, including anxiety, depression, PTSD, which really kind of underlie our overall well-being. And, it's no wonder that people don't know where to turn, that they, reach out and end up, heading down a path that, has them really needing support. It's well known at this point that one of the core issues that we're facing in healthcare and mental health care and addiction care is that there are a lot of silos and disconnections between organizations and between services. And that's what this program represents is, the initiating of a repair of that. It's what, we collectively really see as needed is to repair those disconnects in the way that we communicate, in the way that we, on a person-to-person level and also organization to organization to really provide holistic, effective care. And so again, it's been really inspiring to be a part of this process. So I'm going to hand it back over to Marc just to say a little bit more about Together We Can Addiction Recovery and Education Society and the amazing work that they are doing there as an organization, which really laid the foundation as to why a pilot program, like this was so successful. So back to you, Marc.
Thanks, Madison.
Mm-hmm.
So Together We Can is Canada's largest leading not-for-profit treatment and recovery society. We have 360 beds in total. 160 of those beds are primary care, spread out across 7 specialized treatment programs. We really work hard to be inclusive and create safe, supported spaces for everyone. The other 200 beds are sober living. So when people finish the 60 or 90-day residential program, they can transition to a safe, supported, sober living environment where they can continue to build on the foundations they get in treatment, to continue working through different modalities of healing, building relationships, not only with the people around them and communities, but with self. Together We Can was predominantly a 12-step based program many years ago, but as we've evolved and as we've looked further into trying to support those that need the help, we now offers, CBT, DBT, wellness, there's spirituality, a variety of different modalities and services. Our hope is to touch on as many modalities as possible. Everybody learns it differently, and we're hoping that something lands, that a seed is planted, and we can help them grow from that place. I would say we roughly have 1,000 clients come through TWC every year. Together We Can is more heavily staffed with people that have lived experience than other centers I'm aware of. That for me on my own journey added great benefit. I was learning from people who had walked the path before me, who were living lives free from the use, something that I had been unable to accomplish. And it has opened pathways of meeting people like the very special people that are on the panel with me today. and the amazing team from Empower Health and Michelle from Change Space. And I'd just like to share that I'm extremely grateful to be here this evening.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and I just want to also say how honored I am to have been a part of this collaboration, and just how excited I am moving forward for what we're creating together. So my name is Michelle Falcone, and I am the founder and executive director of Change Space Foundation. We are a new nonprofit, been just over a year now. It's been a really exciting year getting started. And our mission, really, we're on a mission to create lasting change. And you know what that lasting change looks like is we want to provide access to services, and we want to be supporting the development of essential resources, particularly in the areas of mental health and addiction. And this is how this partnership all came about between the three organizations, which is Empower Health, Together We Can, and Change Space Foundation. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory because there is some synchronicity to this, and I'm thinking that the audience that we have today will appreciate that. So during COVID, I was really overwhelmed with my coaching practice. I'm an integrated life coach, and what I recognized was that my clients, the needs of my clients drastically changed. I would say my, most common client was a person that was looking to overcome a certain area of their life and make changes. But when COVID happened, it went from that to people just having really serious breakdowns and their mental health declining. And what that led for me to realize was that we just were lacking support. There was just no support for people. And it really got me curious and on a mission, on my own mission, to really figure out why this was and where there were, proper services and just what that looked like. So that was where my inspiration came from to start Change Space Foundation. And I went, on a mission. I felt like I was an investigator trying to find the resources so that I could help people get the support that they needed. And I was at a conference, and I just happened to see Dr. Ray speaking, and was completely blown away by her passion and commitment to healthcare, and just really wanting people to receive the help and the support that they needed. So it was one of those moments that I got to know that woman. And so after the panel, I went and introduced myself. Next thing I know, we're meeting for lunch, and I'm sharing the vision of Change Space. And she's like, oh, yeah. We can work together. We've got great programs, great ideas. And then Dr. Ray made the introduction with myself and for Change Space Foundation to Together We Can. And then from there, we just, we had many meetings, actually. It was very collaborative. Just identifying the needs, the needs of the clients and what was really working. And I have to just say, Together We Can has done an incredible job of building community. I don't know that I've seen a community with so much love and support and acceptance. It's really beautiful. So it was taking what they've already built, which was amazing, and just looking at where in their programs, they could enhance the programs for the healing of their clients. So Empower Health, they're just such dedicated therapists, doctors, nurses, and they, the three of us together collaborated and developed this incredible program. So it's just been such an honor, which is the Integrated Recovery Program. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. It has indeed been an honor to really collaborate with you, and together we can in this process. And it really feels like, in a way, a closing of a circle. Since we founded Empower Health in 2014, and as Ray mentioned, Madison mentioned, we initially, when Ray and I got together, we really saw the need for an integrated approach. I'm not too familiar with this term, but it does provide a bit of a context in complementary and alternative health. And just seeing that there were integrated models, but too often there was still just kind of a siloing of care for people who were wanting to avail themselves of this type of care. And so we found the vision in place truly integrated care, where a lot of our emphasis over the years has been on vertical integration, essentially. How do we integrate at the level of ownership and governance? How do we integrate in terms of community, in a really really kind of being based and supporting the needs of the particular community that we're in, and at the practice and at the leadership level. And if any of you have been following, the psychedelic discourse over the years, you will know that integration is a really big watchword in the psychedelic field, just in terms of how do we integrate these transformational processes so that they continue to reap fruits in our lives overall, not just in our healing process, but in terms of our families, in terms of community regeneration, which we're really passionate about. And again, the opportunity to collaborate with Change Space and Together We Can really, again, brings a lot of this vision and what we've been working over the years, including what Michelle mentioned attracted her, which is a programming approach, really brings it all together. We have 30 practitioners and staff and contractors on our team. We have one of the few unique extern or intern naturopathic student medical training programs at our site. We have other counseling practicum students, so we're a teaching site and mentoring site, as well as delivering services and programs as well in a range of cutting edge modalities, everything from neurotherapy all the way through to craniosacral therapy, osteopathy, and as we are going to be diving into more in terms of the integrated recovery program, integrated naturopathic services and ketamine-assisted therapy, which is one of a number of programs that we offer as part of our therapy and counseling modalities. So I will hand it over to Madison to actually bring more of that together as she describes how the integrated recovery program came to be developed and was offered.
Yes. Thank you, Helen. And yeah, just so happy to share about this. So the program itself, in our very first pilot that was run earlier this year, and so Mark, Mick, and James, who are on this call, were our three participants, our brave participants of that program. And thank you so much for your trust and just walking that process with us. So it was a 12-week program, which was delivered primarily at Empower Health in East Vancouver. And so it incorporates a wide range of the therapies that Helen was just mentioning, and bringing those together in 3 blended streams of care. So those being holistic wellness nutrition, advanced mind body, and medicine-assisted recovery, which is where the ketamine-assisted therapy aspect comes in. And so this was all created in a curated and systemic fashion. And so, somebody going through the program, it's with intention, the spacing, the sequence of the appointments, how much time does somebody need in between each to get their lab results back and to have those interpreted in the software that we have that gives, just incredible amount of detail on somebody's health and well-being. What touch points are needed. This was all done in a cohort as well. So, these 3 men, they really truly did walk that process together. Some of the services that were included in the program. So it's naturopathic care, there was breath work, there was somatic therapy, neurofeedback, and also ketamine-assisted therapy. And we were out for lunch recently. It was myself, Helen, and Ray talking about this with a couple of psychiatrist friends. They mentioned like, oh, wow, for anybody that's read Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, like I'm pretty sure, nearly half of the things that you were mentioned in that book, you include in this program. So, it really is based on the latest and most progressive evidence for trauma-informed care, and for really supporting healing at a root cause level, rather than just treating symptoms. So as Helen mentioned, we had a really wide team. So just, mention some of those practitioners briefly. There's naturopathic doctors, psychologists, we had counselors, board certified neurofeedback practitioners, doctors, nurses, and we also had an amazing filmmaker, Chad Galloway from Trail Films, follow us on this process. And so he captured some really amazing footage of the ketamine-assisted therapy sessions, and also, just the overall process. And he's graciously shared a piece of more raw film with us tonight that we can show towards the end of our evening. And we intend to have this created into a documentary film, and part of the beauty of that process is that we don't exactly know, where the story is going. And so he's coming along this journey with us and is capturing things with us as we create it. A really important aspect of the program was to have objective measures. And so we did that before and after the program, which included mental health scores, blood lab markers, and we also had each of them, and they did QEEG brainwave assessments. And so we got the results. And after the program, the average percentage of decrease in anxiety levels was around 70%. For depression, it was a decrease of 23%. And for PTSD symptoms, a decrease of 40%. In the blood markers, also saw an increase of 38% in BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is a marker that's important and is linked to conditions like depression, anxiety, sleep and stress issues, as well as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And lastly, we saw an increase of 12% in alpha brainwaves, which are the brainwaves particularly associated with a sense of calmness and relaxation. And most importantly, what we also, captured was before and after interviews. And so it's how did that subjectively, how did that translate into the participants, experience, into their quality of life, and what it is that they're really walking away with. And some of the things that they reported, which they're going to be sharing their personal experiences later, but just to mention briefly that there was an overall increase in health and well-being, which included reduction in the need for certain medications, as well as improvements in sleep quality and just overall mental health. As well, important to mention that, we have a pilot participant size of 3. And so, we recognize that this is our first, go through this. We really do intend, and that's, part of why we're sharing about this, is that we want to expand and grow this. And we really see this as having a possibility to make a significant impact on mental health and overall healthcare. So these men were identified to go through this process because they have a high level of resilience, and to offer something like this to people who are more fresh in their recovery process, there's certainly going to need to be more support in the form of regular check-ins and aftercare that would be as a follow-ups following a more intensive kind of healing and transformation process like this. So I will now hand it over to Dr. Ray St. Arnaud to speak a little bit about kind of like why ketamine-assisted therapy, the integrated approach to a program like this, and sharing a little bit of her knowledge that went into the development of something like this. Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks so much, Madison and Helen, and everyone who's come before me, Michelle, Mark. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with everybody and sharing this experience and what we've learned all together as a big collaborative group. I'm here to speak a little bit on the integrated health aspect of the program, because one of the core foundational philosophies of the program and of Empower Health and the journey that we've been on has been the fact that mind-body medicine, the body and the mind, are not two separate things. And I know that there are many people that and organizations that are awake to this and really taking this to heart. It's not as easy to implement as one thinks. So it's easy to say, not easy to do. And so how do we really bring together all aspects of a person's health into one program? And so what the aspect of the program that I was contributing to was the integrated health aspect. And it's really looking at those places where physical health may impede on mental health and vice versa. So we brought in a lot of naturopathic core philosophy. We also did testing, like blood tests on patients, and looked at some basically foundational nutritional problems and any other health issues that may be impacting a person's mental health. And I think this is something that has come from my own experience working with patients over the years, where somebody will be wanting to address their mental health issues and not getting anywhere, and it could be a basic nutritional an underlying nutritional deficiency that's really impairing brain function. We have a lot of nutraceutical tools available to us that support brain health, for example. So we don't really see these two things as separate, and we actually see them as fundamental for full mind, body, spirit healing. So really looking from an integrated perspective, I know Helen mentioned the word integration. There are so many ways that we use that word in a program like this, whether it's organizational, whether it's from the perspective of somebody integrating lessons learned into their lives, integrating themselves back into community, or if we're integrating various facets of a person's healthcare. And one of the key ways that we do that from an integrative health perspective is we have really good communication across the disciplines. So, counselors speaking with doctors, speaking with, physical health practitioners, etc. There's a lot of, also now bringing in, more progressive tools that were previously unavailable to us, such as medicine-assisted or psychedelic-assisted therapies, as a part of an integrated program. And I think that's something that is very unique about our approach is that we have never seen, psychedelic therapy or ketamine-assisted therapy as a standalone tool. It's always been offered as part of somebody's integrated health programming. And when it's being offered in an integrative setting, you're less likely to have people who are unsuitable for this type of therapy to get it, because they are being seen, by a team of practitioners who, know them very well. And, it's less likely that somebody's going to get referred into a therapy that is inappropriate for them. And what we're seeing more and more of, being in the heart of East Vancouver, and also being at the epicenter of the psychedelic renaissance here in Vancouver, a lot of people, at least in my own practice, have come to me after having had experiences with powerful tools, in a lot of cases psychedelics, but also, inappropriate use of breath work, even for nervous systems that can't handle them, and could have handled them had there been, a proper integrative approach to their care, where it wasn't the only tool that a therapist had available to them to recommend. So it's really nice to have a variety of tools to be able to offer somebody, so that they actually get the right thing for them, right? And in the context of what we're doing with the integrative recovery program, bringing people in a cohort where they have support from other fellow participants. There's a safety net as well for those people going through the program. So there's a lot of safety checks and balances, a lot of different assessments, as Madison mentioned, being done, and again, from that integrative health perspective, assessments being done to make sure that even somebody's physical health is actually okay to go through some of these treatments. So, yeah, it's been really amazing to watch, and to be a witness to, and be a support to people coming through this program, and getting the feedback that, hey, I didn't realize, that this could be related to that, or this, physical health condition could be related to this mental health condition. And really, seeing like light bulbs going off, and really empowering people, and again, one of the, one of the words in our program, empower, is really putting the power into, people's hands to really make decisions and choices for their own health care, right? And part of that, from the mental health perspective, and why we do some of these transformational healing modalities, is to really unlock that potential, within people, is to really take health into their own hands, not just mental health, but also all of their health into their own hands, and really feel good, really get to a place where, you're feeling good physically, mentally, and emotionally. So thank you, Madison. And I don't know if I'm handing it back to you right now, or.
Thanks, Ray. Amazing. So yeah, just dovetailing on really what everyone has pointed to, just in terms of the impetus for this program, from our years of trauma training in a number of fields, and practice in this area as well, that a lack of connection and disruption in relationships really being the root cause of addiction. And as others have mentioned, we really have focused on root causes overall in our entire approach at Empower Health. So a key aspect of this program is the partnership between the participants and their health team. So really kind of fostering that we're partners together, and we suggest and propose, and have protocols that we offer, but it really is a partnership, and it really puts agency with people with lived experience, which has often not been their experience. And so even just having that can really shift in terms of their own empowerment through any type of healing process. And also the integrated approach, it really provides a potent complement to the accountability structures that are baked into recovery. And it was humbling and illuminating. It continues to be, how much these amazing participants brought to the equation, and our learnings in you know, as practitioners, really how to ignite or reignite the inner healing capacity that we all have and we all have access to in the right circumstances. And that was really just a profound learning for us all. And the grounding in community really is, I mean, Marc spoke about it at the beginning, but just how together we can, and Michelle also, how together we can is so rooted in community, and more has been addressing, you know, these really progressive recovery models, you know, the 12 steps that are at the core of them, but smart recovery. And obviously, I think I'll let you say more, Marc, Mick, and James, but just the programs that really kind of address the particular cultural background that people come with into recovery. So that was elements of the process that really worked. And I'll hand over to Madison just to say a little bit more about just the kind of background research around ketamine-assisted therapy and why we really wanted to have that as part of our offering. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So there is certainly a lot of interest, you know, out there growing towards ketamine-assisted therapy as well as psychedelic-assisted therapy. And, you know, ketamine-assisted therapy in particular, because it comes from the, you know, background of it being an anesthetic, it's already integrated into our medical system. So implementing this as a therapy has been possible, whereas some of the other psychedelic medicines, you know, are available through specific programs in Canada called Special Access, but it's only available for those who qualify. And so ketamine in specific is really effective for many people, including those who have treatment resistance to other depression treatments. So, you know, you think of people who have tried and failed, you know, a bunch of different antidepressant medications, including SSRIs, even things like ECT or electroconvulsive therapy. You know, they've really been through it all. And nothing has worked, nothing has helped support them to find that wellness. And I know, you know, in particular, you know, we're talking about recovery journeys, but as we've mentioned, mental health is such a foundational element as to, you know, why people may or may not succumb to addiction. And so the research shows that when done in a series of treatments, that ketamine is effective in around 70 to 75% of people to reduce symptoms of depression. It's also been studied particularly to promote abstinence. And so there's been several research studies that have shown results that has been the case to reduce alcohol dependence, to reduce cravings to cocaine, and many others. So you know, it's one of the most hopeful treatments that we have available in mental health care. There's really been very little progress that has happened in the past, I believe it's like 30 years. So, you know, the tools that we've had before that are pharmacological treatments that require somebody to take a pill every day in order to actually support themselves. And absolutely nothing wrong with that. For many people, it works, and it could be, you know, a bridge therapy or something that, you know, actually really does bring benefit. So it's not to discount those, you know. And what ketamine-assisted therapy allows for is to remove some of the barriers that we protect ourselves with. And when people are engaging with a therapist during a process like that, these potentially root causes of what has us be sick, whether those are negative stories that we've told ourselves, whether those are experiences that we've had that have registered in the body as trauma, get to be processed. And this is a very simplified, way of explaining it. There's many other mechanisms of, ketamine itself and of the therapy that bring benefit. It can be really powerful. It's not for everyone, of course. And that's something that we're going to be very thoughtful about as we move forward in this program. And especially because we are treating, supporting people with substance use disorder with another substance, which, there is still a significant amount of stigma and conversations to be had in this space, and to really ensure that the steps that we're taking are slow, thoughtful, and at the same time, we don't have a lot of time to just wait sitting around while people are dying and suffering and families are broken apart, when we know that we have tools that work. So that's our commitment, is to really engage in this dialogue and to be thoughtful, and to be thoughtful, and to take the safety measures and the protective measures that reduce at all possible, anyone developing a dependence to something like this, which when it's done in a therapeutic environment where there is that wraparound support, the likelihood of that being possible, we're not sending anybody home with any of the substance. Of course not. The possibilities of that occurring are greatly reduced, and the enhanced, check-in, the community, the accountability, all of those things really lend well to a process like that being integrated. So, really important that we don't shy away from those conversations. So, getting to the part of the program that I think, certainly I'm the most excited about, and, I've had the privilege and honor of hearing the stories of the men who sit with us on this panel today, Mick, James, and Marc, and just, so, looking forward to you sharing your stories with us, again, sharing your heart. And so I hand it over to whoever wants to go first. I think we're going to have Mick or James, one of you share first, whoever would like to go.
Sure. I'll go. My name's Mick. First off, this is quite nerve-wracking. I just to give you a little bit of a backstory of who I am. I'm just a regular guy. Born and raised here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, and I'm a first generation Indian of Indian descent. I dealt with quite a fair bit of I guess trauma growing up in my formative years. From as early as I can remember, didn't really feel safe at home. And I guess over time, I just, the literature says that when a child is abused, they don't stop loving their abuser, they stop loving themselves. And I can definitely relate to that. And so I had this, from as early as I can remember, this sense of loneliness, just this void, this missing piece. A lot of anxiety, always anxiety, sometimes panic attacks. I would go into deep depressions. And so when I got into my teens, eventually I connected with a group of friends, and our whole sense of belonging and connection revolved around drugs and alcohol. And so, yeah, I fell in love with substances very quickly. It progressed slowly at the beginning, but inevitably I progressed. I went from booze eventually to marijuana, and then inevitably I got to the harder substances. I ultimately became an IV heroin user, and I just didn't feel like there was any way out. And in 2006, uh, my family attempted to help me, and I think I was at the end of my rope. A few suicide attempts, and I got checked into a treatment center, and I started to see that there was another way. I started to see that there was a camaraderie, a sense of community, people that were connecting and actually wanting to stay sober and actually wanting to help one another. And it just blew me away. And so I bought into recovery really quickly. And I think just everything that recovery offered at the time. I'm talking about like the 12-step program. I was more 12-step, extremely heavily 12-step based. I August 5th, 2006 was my initial sober date. And I did all the things. I got a home group. I was going to the first several years, I was going to a meeting every night. I got into program-oriented meetings, a meeting called the Big Book Study. Eventually started to facilitate one. And, I was really hard-nosed about abstinence and how important it was. And I think part of that was because I had a lot of fear. I didn't want to go back to what my life looked like prior to sobering up. And so I was really vigilant with my recovery. And at about 10 and a half years in, I found myself still, you know, battling at times what I like to call um, the friction of life, the friction of, whatever was going on inside me, the friction of being alive. And I put all my eggs in the 12-step model basket, and which it's a wonderful sense of community. There's so much empowerment in it. Personally, for me, the trauma that I had and the depression and the anxiety, I needed outside help. And so after conventional methods allowed me to have, over a decade of sobriety, I inevitably ended up relapsing. And I relapsed hard, and it was dark, and a lot more suffering had to happen. And, there was attempts to sober up. I went back to treatment. I would sober up for a little while and then relapse, back to treatment, sober up for a little while, relapse. And then finally, almost 2 years ago, I went back to treatment. I really connected with, people that really matter to me, people like Mark and James. And I never wanted it more than I wanted it then, but I also knew that I needed outside help. And, things like trauma therapy, somatic therapy, lots of breath workshops, psychedelics if necessary. And it's unfortunate that the stigma, I was one of the people that would look at it and, wag my finger. The stigma around using pharmacology or plant medicine to help with anxiety, depression, trauma, all of that kind of stuff. But I was just grateful to connect with people that had more of an open mind. And so, long story short, I just want to bring myself into this program. So, getting started in this program, I was terrified, but it was so wonderful to see a program that deals with all three aspects of human life: the physical, the mental, emotional, and what I like to call life energy or spirit. the physical in terms of, blood work, getting levels checked, all of that kind of stuff. And the sense of support was just, I just can't say enough about it. I ruined a lot of my veins, and had bad experiences with getting blood tests. And Madison was kind enough to support me and come with me to get blood tests, and made it okay and made me feel supported and safe. And, I don't know of any other programs that do that have that level of support and care and compassion. The experience with ketamine was, I was always terrified going into it. Anytime I do have experiences like this, I've done ibogaine twice. It was extremely dark experiences. My subconscious is can be dark, and that being said, it did allow me to kind of extract myself from the personalization of that shadow, that dark part of myself that I don't want to look at or admit to having, or integrate into my self-actualization. And so one of the most important things in those experiences was the amount of support. This was in a holistic environment, and I was terrified at times, but the support from the wonderful women from Empower, and the support from my brothers, Mark and James. I can't say enough about how important that holistic, supportive, nurturing environment is. And if that is what the environment is, I don't look at it as anything but, like, there, as Madison was saying, it's just impossible for it to become something that could lead to a trigger or be problematic. It's not even perceived that way. It's perceived as something, a journey, looking at possibilities and working through pain and suffering rather than over it or under it or around it, the way I did for so many years with substances. And so, yeah, this is the first program, this integrated program that I've seen that covers all three aspects of the human condition, and I'm just so grateful. And there is longevity to the effects of ketamine. I am able to be less anxiety overall. Lots of anxiety today, but generally less anxiety. Not really getting into low moods or depression. I'm able to look at things less subjectively and more objectively. And yeah, I just can't say enough about this program. I'm just really grateful, and I'm grateful to be here today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mick. Yeah, just, I know it takes bravery to share your story on a forum like this, and I know that people are going to be already are and going to be impacted by that. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's have James, if you want to share with us about your experience. I've got a cat joining me here. Thank
Sure.
you.
Hi, everyone. I'm James, and I will tell a little bit about my background and my story. I guess I'll start off with how I see it all unfolding. And that's from an early childhood experience in growing up in an alcoholic home where my father was an abusive alcoholic, and I was exposed to a lot of trauma. Like, I had things happen in my household that, I would always have a sense of fear or anxiety inside of me that was overbearing. I would bring that fear and anxiety with me to school, and I couldn't concentrate at school, and I certainly, wasn't able to really make any friends. I always felt kind of like the black sheep, the person that didn't fit in, and I grew up like that for a lot of years. And getting into my high school years, things started to change a little bit for me. I was able to at least make some friends, and I get involved in sports, and I managed to stay away from drugs and alcohol because I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with it because of my childhood, and I seen what it did to my father and what it did to my family. And so I was, one of these guys at school that were made fun of because, I don't drink, and I don't use any type of drugs. I just focus on, myself. And I get involved in a relationship with my high school sweetheart, and her name was Andrea. And it come time for graduation, and she was going to university in Ontario, and I got a scholarship for a local university for football. And anyhow, she decided that a long-term relationship wasn't going to work for us, and we broke up. I was just absolutely devastated. I was just so emotionally crippled from that experience, and I was at such a low point in my life. And all my friends are like, "Man, you got to come out. You need to get over this, and like come have a couple drinks, and like trust me, that'll all go away." And I was I forgot about the promise that I made to myself to, not drink or use drugs, and I decided to say yes. And I took that drink, and they were absolutely right. They were absolutely right. Like all the feelings of sorrow and, just the morning and all those kinds of things went away like almost instantly. And I had this new sense of fun that I felt, and I felt like part of, and I fit in, and, all the things, all the fun effects that alcohol had. And it would, the weekend would come around. I'd be so excited to get out and go party with my friends, because now I have this new lifestyle thing that I really enjoy. And eventually, Friday night would turn into Thursday night, and then Thursday night would turn into Wednesday night. And before I knew it, I was drinking almost every day, and using it really as a form to escape. I tried a lot of things when I was younger to escape my thinking and to escape the way that I was feeling. I was a cutter when I was a kid. A lot of people don't understand that, but I used to cut myself to relieve myself from my thinking mind and the way I was feeling. And it worked for a while, but I kind of outgrew that, and I found some other things, like mostly sports, that I get involved in that kind of helped me. But drinking was a whole nother level. Like it was a way to get out of self and to numb my thinking and to numb my emotions. And it certainly helped me, through this breakup. But it got to the point where it started to like control me. I would wake up and have this desire, this feeling, this craving to drink. And before I knew it, I was a daily drinker, using drugs. This is now into my early 20s, and it got to a point where I had to do something. Like I had children when I was young, and I had these children around me that are looking up at me, and it's just that the sense of love and responsibility that I had. It brought me to a point where I had to do something. And I managed to get away from that lifestyle, and I went to detox, and I sobered up, and I managed to stay sober for a lot of years, like 15 years. And in that time, I was able to raise my kids and be the father I wanted to be, and very active in their lives. And I raised my kids in scouting, so I was one of those parent volunteers on the weekends with my kids, and we had a good relationship. And in my work life, I had some kind of interesting things that I would get involved in. And I used to, after the authorities would raid a clandestine drug lab, I was one of these people that would go in afterwards and take samples of the area and send them to the lab and analyze the results to determine what type of chemicals were present and build design a remediation process to bring this building back to a state where it can be reoccupied. And I got pretty good at it, and I developed a remediation protocols of the province of Alberta and worked here directly in Surrey with the city of Surrey to develop a remediation protocol. And so I knew what I was doing in that area. And unfortunately for me, I ended up going to a job site in Richmond, where I walked in and I found a lab that was created where, in the bedroom they had these blenders set up to be able to break down keys of cocaine, and they would add this thing called buff to it to increase the quantity of the product, and they would repress it and they would sell it on the street. And I've seen many of these things, and I was very familiar. And so when I go into these types of scenes, I am fully in personal protective equipment. So I have Tyvek coveralls on, respirator, and specialized cartridges and gloves. And this is going on a Friday late afternoon, and I'm kind of in a rush. I have to get home, bring my oldest boy Seth to lacrosse, and it's hot. And anyhow, I made a poor decision. I decided to take off my respirator, and I took off my gloves, and I proceeded to work in the area to kind of speed things up. And as I'm taking the samples, about an hour goes by, and lo and behold, all of a sudden I start feeling the effects of, this drug that, almost took me out in my early 20s. And I knew exactly what it was. And, I was high, I was high on cocaine. And it wasn't like, oh my God, like what just happened? I'm high. It was actually, a completely different reaction. It was, oh my God, I'm high. This is great. Unfortunately, I'm looking around this place now. Now I'm looking around, I'm looking for it. And it's very common for me on these scenes to come across, narcotics that the police didn't confiscate. And I would normally just call the authorities. They would come and pick it up. And in this case, I didn't call them. I took it home. I found several ounces of cocaine, and I brought it home. And I just like my earlier start in drinking, the same thing. It was, I would use a little bit on the weekends and hide it from everybody. And, eventually it got to the point where I was using it every day and no longer hide it. Now it's really affecting my life and my job, and my everything that was going on for me was affected. It got to the point where I couldn't stop. I could not stop. And for anyone that hasn't suffered, from addiction, it's really hard to really relate. And because it's, people think that, using drugs or alcohol is a choice. And of course it's a choice when when you first try it, for sure it's a choice. But for people like me who suffer from addiction, that disease, is not a choice. It's something that it grabs a hold of you, and it will not let go. And you don't have a choice. You get caught in the grips of addiction, and you can't stop. And that's exactly what happened to me at this area of my life. And I tried to stop, but it was just overwhelming. And nothing could stop me. Not the risk of losing my job or my business, or the risk of what it was doing to my family. My wife at the time, my kids. I have 5 beautiful children that I just love and adore. And the love that I had for my wife couldn't stop me. The love that I had for my kids couldn't stop me. My youngest daughter at the time, Jamie, she was 8 years old and still daddy's little girl. I'd get home from work, she would bolt out the door, jump on me. She was so excited to see me, and the love I had for my little girl couldn't stop me. It got to the point where I I lost everything. I lost my wife, I lost my kids, my home that I worked so hard to have and create for my family, and it was devastating. You know, it was devastating. But even that loss wasn't enough to stop me. I stayed going, and to the point, you know, I ended up becoming homeless. I lived on the streets in Surrey. This happened for almost 2 years of this being in that state. And in my addiction, I met a gentleman that was also like me and suffered from addiction, and his name was Johnny G. And he says, you know, have you ever thought of getting into recovery? And I said, yeah, of course. I thought of getting into recovery, and I had money set aside, and I was going to go to recovery. But of course, you know, I spent that money on drugs and alcohol. I couldn't save it, couldn't stop it. And just, you know, I could probably help get you into recovery if you ever wanted to try it. And so that kind of stuck with me. And I one day I'm in this state of mind where I'm just in this, you know, suffering and thinking about what I've done to my family and my wife and her dreams and our dreams and our future and my kids especially. And you know, they've lost their friends and their family was tore apart, and it was just horrible. It's such a tragedy. And I thought to myself, you know, what if one of my children is like me and has this thing where they, you know, they drink and use drugs and they can't stop? And I really didn't know anything about alcoholism or dependency, or, you know, other than what I knew about, I learned when I was a kid. So I didn't really know what was going on with me, but I certainly knew that it was something that my kids could inherit from me. And when the thought of one of my kids having to go through and suffer like I did came into my mind, it was like a bolt of lightning come through my body. And you know, it was, I called my friend Johnny G, and I said, hey, look, you know, if there's a chance that you can get me into recovery, I'll take it. And Johnny came through on his word, and that's how I was introduced to Together We Can. And this organization brought me in. You know, like, so they went through crazy things to get me there. Like, I was, at the time, I was homeless, living under the pier in White Rock, and they actually sent someone out to search for me and find me, and they found me and, you know, drove me back into, you know, into the center in Vancouver, and where I was, you know, welcomed by, you know, all the staff and all the people there that, you know, I was the state of mind that I was in at that time was just, you know, I was down and out, and I really needed to change, you know, my life. And Together We Can certainly did that for me. They, you know, it got me, it taught me about alcoholism, and it taught me about recovery. And you know, it's been 6 years since, you know, since I've been sober. And but what was going on is I was still had this trauma inside of me that I was dealing with, and it was affecting my quality of life. And you know, I'd be in the middle of a conversation with somebody, and I'd have a flashback of a trauma scene, and I would just go blank, and you know, I just want to run and, you know, get away, because I just couldn't handle that thought. And when I had the experience with the integrated recovery program, not only did, you know, I get the benefits from the, you know, the naturopathic process, the neurofeedback, and you know, the one-on-one counseling, and the breath work was amazing. And but the ketamine really did it for me. It was profound. I mean, the gift of recovery, being free from addiction, I compare it to that gift, because what it did for me is it gave me the gift of closure. I'm not sure how it happened, but it happened. Like, I no longer have this relationship with my trauma that I used to have. Just absolutely, what an amazing gift. Like, today, I live without that trauma. I live without the trauma response. It just evolved my recovery to a state that just, I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful to Michelle, who, you know, kind of had this idea, and kind of put it all together. And Dr. Ray and Helen and Madison, like everyone's just been so fantastic. And my brothers, like, oh my God, like we've always had a good bond, but this certainly has brought us together much closer. And I'm just so happy, so grateful, and I appreciate being on here today. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Yes, thank you to you as well. Thank you for your bravery and sharing your story and, yeah, the details and the significance of the journey that you've been on. It's really impactful, and just thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, Marc, and we'll just be mindful of time. I think we're a few minutes over, so just to be mindful of the 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll be mindful of time. I don't suspect it will take me long to share my message. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Marc. I am a highly sensitive, very emotional, deeply caring being. And I've come to a place today where I'm comfortable wearing it. I was wearing it when I was citing the statistics in the opening, setting the stage. Unfortunately for me, being that way when I was younger created a scenario where I was ridiculed and sort of rejected. And confused in lots of ways, not understanding why the other people around me didn't feel the similar way. I can remember as a child in middle school pushing younger kids on the swings at recess because I just wanted to be doing something kind, and the people in my grade outcasted me or rejected me for it. I, for a long time, even based on what was going on at home, didn't feel like there was anywhere safe for me to be, that, I wasn't getting love, I guess, anywhere. At some point, I had an event where I acted out in a bit of an aggressive way with someone who had been ridiculing me for many years. I think it was grade 9. And had some fear about returning to the classroom afterwards, and found that when I returned, I was celebrated for it. That was the first time that I felt celebrated, and that led to sort of being accepted and finding a place in community. And so, from that point on, I slowly started to continue to act out in ways that weren't authentic to me. They, were separate from my values, from my beliefs, from how I truly felt. But I had been so desperate for community and so desperate for belonging that I just continued to act in those ways. When I first found alcohol, I found with the use of alcohol, it was easier for me to act out. It was easier for me to pretend to be something that I wasn't. It was easier for me to stuff the feelings that were associated with all of that. But unfortunately, over the course of time, there was more and more drinking, more and more stuffing, became increasingly more disconnected from that sense of who I really was. And through that process, any sense of self-love eventually became eradicated. I began to hate myself, and I didn't really know why. I had community, I had people, I was working in trades and in rough environments, and I was respected, and I would lead crews with fear, but I led crews, and I was called in to help with difficult situations, and all along just like had this overwhelming discomfort, this knot that would build in my stomach, and I would need more and more. All led to power cocaine use, led to what I would suggest as severe crack cocaine use. You know, I reached at many points, I thought, if I bought a dog, something would be better. If I bought a house, something would be better. If I had kids, something would be better. And, you know, I would suggest that some of those things were short-term solutions. There was some sort of shift. There was some part of me that maybe came to the forefront or to the surface that was authentic, that sort of carried me for a short period of time. You know, I spent many trips to the doctors. I tried, you know, 7 different antidepressants, always searching for why I felt the way I felt, why the depression, why I hated myself, why I was always uncomfortable and unsettled. You know, after, you know, trying 7 different medications of that nature, I received a bipolar diagnosis and active addiction. I was put on antipsychotics. You know, when I relapsed after that point, they thought my bipolar was destabilizing. You know, they put me on 600 milligrams of Seroquel a day. They put me on clonazepam, Ativan. I mean, the list is long. And it just further and further and further removed my any sense of self, you know, to the point that I just, when I luckily landed on the steps of Together We Can in 2014, was just an empty, hollow shell. I had been in and out of treatment facilities, psych wards, hospitals, a short prison stay over the course of 10 years. And it just continued to get worse and worse. You know, the binges I would need to go on to hit the reset went from 1 day to 3 days to 7 days. You know, no food, no sleep, no water, consuming, you know, toxic substances. You know, essentially when I got on the bus from Kamloops in 2014, everyone that knew me at that point, everyone that loved me, everyone that cared of me, was pretty sure that I was getting on that bus to come to Vancouver to die. And after 10 years of being in and out of recovery centers, I didn't believe that that wasn't the case either. But something was different when I got here. This was the first recovery center that was staffed with peer support, the way it is. Even just the gentleman that picked me up at the bus station had this energy about him that was different. I was just like, he didn't look at me a certain way. He looked at me with this openness, with this like understanding. He was happy to see me. It was confusing. You know, I came to the center and met the executive director and was received in the same way. You know, and then I found myself in a garage with 12 other men sharing, you know, stories and about things they had done that were similar to what I had done. And some of the guilt and the shame started to dissipate. I started to interact with group facilitators like Mick, who were living lives that were different from what I had been living. And I was like, it gave me this opportunity to have some hope, I guess. And, you know, here I sit 10 years later, and I didn't come to Vancouver to die. You know, I put my trust in people and followed their suggestions. I came to a place of understanding that doing things Marc's way continued to lead me to the same place. And so for many years, you know, I was part of 12-step community. I took suggestions. I gave back to the community. I had positions. I volunteered. I committed my life to the service of Together We Can, the men in it, and to recovery. But there always was still a piece of me that struggled. You know, I had an opportunity to start to reconnect with an authentic version of myself, to show it to the world, to show it to those around me, and to be accepted and celebrated for it. But there were always these small pieces in the background of like, you know, self-love that needed cultivation, and I didn't really understand it. I still found myself uncomfortable in situations. I still had some struggles, and my first experience with an altered state was breath work. It was the first time at 43 that I had an experience where all of my insecurities faded into the background, and I had an idea or even a seed of like what loving myself without the stories, the pain, the history would look like. And, that has started a journey for me. And that was at the beginning of COVID, a journey of exploring. And, it's no longer pain and suffering for me that is the precipice for change. It's curiosity. And that curiosity has led to other opportunities. And then I find myself with this opportunity with Empower Health to participate in this integrated recovery program. And I mean, I entered that space. I was working with the naturopathic doctor. In some of those sessions, there were 2 practicum students, not dissimilar to the rest of the team. They were just these beautiful, amazing, understanding, caring, compassionate people. Their energy was so beautiful. I shared things in those appointments that I've never shared with a family doctor. I felt so safe and so supported through the process. I learned things in the brain mapping that I didn't know, like some triggers for potential brain injury. I've been hit in the head lots of times, had no idea that that could potentially be a thing. Some discussion around ADHDs has led me to exploring some other areas of healing. And then the ketamine therapy, and like I will try to keep it brief. It's hard for me to articulate, but I have since my mid-30s been affected 3 or 4 times a month by a traumatic event. I would have a trigger when my entire body would seize up, and I sort of just got to a point where I had accepted that that would be a part of my life. Since I did the ketamine therapy, I have not had that experience since. I also have been able to continue to cultivate self-love in a way that I didn't know was possible. I even 5 years into recovery, when things got challenging, wasn't going to a place of relapse, but I was going to a place of death. I still had some suicidal ideation. I still, when things were hard, potentially wanted to die or wanted things to end. I wanted things to be quiet. And something about that process, the entire process potentially in the ketamine with the integrated recovery program, has given me a new perspective on life. And now I want to be here for as long as I possibly can, to learn as much as I can, to support as long as I can, to show up in the world in an authentic way. I am so very grateful for the opportunity that has been given to me and for my brothers and for the team, and look forward to moving this to larger communities as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Marc. Yes. Thank you so much. Couldn't agree more. And yeah, just, even though I've had the opportunity to hear aspects of your story before, all of you, it's just the act of you sharing your story and, the real authentic version of what's occurred for you is just, you can't understate, what that can do, that, and I know that you all know, it's like, it only takes one person to hear it, in a new way to have this just carry on in a really good way. So thank you, all 3 of you.
Yes, thank you. And before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you for putting your trust in us. And that image is soldered into my mind and heart of the 3 of you kind of walking together to go for something to eat after that last session together. And it was just this sweetest, just the bros heading off in the sunset. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we are now going to share the little video. It's, I believe, 4 to 5 minutes long. That includes some of the footage that was captured of this beautiful journey. And So cueing our awesome tech team supporting us in the background to cue that up for us.
I was in a constant state of in and out of recovery and active addiction. You know, I felt like there was a dark cloud following me everywhere I went.
Eventually, it took full control of me and I couldn't stop. It got to the point where, you know, I lost my wife, I lost my kids, and I lost my home, and I became homeless.
You know, I got to this place where I just had felt that my life was over, that it had taken everything good away from me, everything good about me away, and I just wanted it to end. But it didn't.
Welcome everyone. We're really honored to support you all in this process. Has anyone done any breath work before? Mark, yeah. A little bit, yeah, okay. It's a process that has been used in wisdom traditions for thousands of years. Basically invites energy that's angry, that's rageful. When we release it in this type of safe, strong container, we're able to channel it. It means that we don't turn it on ourselves, which becomes depression, or turn it on others. The point is that you're supported and safe to be able to feel them and work through them. So we'll move towards the mats. You can get underneath the blankets as well. The temperature is going to drop in your body.
Today is the beginning of a journey. I'm hoping it allows me to peel some more layers away and look deep down within to figure out why I operate the way I operate.
When you got the technique, you're just picking up the pace a little bit.
I'm hoping to be able to learn more about dealing with trauma and addiction. That interests me. Like I'm interested in finding ways to be able to help me help others.
My understanding is, you know, they'll be doing some testing on our physiological health. They're going to be doing some work around brain mapping. And then we're going to be having some experiences with the use of ketamine to expose things that we need to work on or have some clarity or have deeper understanding.
I guess I have some concerns, mostly like fear, using a substance that, you know, for me, being someone who is sober is a bit, you know, there's some fear around that for me.
I deal with the disease of addiction. I fully understand that because of that, I'm addicted to things that I haven't even tried yet, because addiction is not about the substance, it's something within me.
I think it's an amazing opportunity, cutting edge opportunity. If we can find other ways of helping people heal and access those deeper places, you know, recovery doesn't necessarily mean abstinence. Recovery is making positive changes in your life, right? And so if we can help people make positive changes that alters their trajectory, yeah, amazing.
So there you have it, a bit of a sneak preview to what is going to be a very powerful documentary showcasing the stories and the journeys of men, not only through this program, but beyond that. So yeah, I'm so happy we had that ready to share. And thank you, Chad, if you're listening into the recording of this, for putting all that together. Your creativity and visionary work just really shines through. So it's so exciting. Can't wait to see what's coming next. So from here, we will hear a little bit from Michelle. So we are coming, towards the end of our program, and I think we're going to have a bit of a Q&A at the very end. So Michelle, as we've introduced her, is the executive director of Change Space Foundation, and I just really want to take a moment to acknowledge the contribution of Michelle through Change Space to get the program launched. It really would not have been possible without you, and their Change Space is really serving a purpose. Really, it's such a key organization in this collaboration, because the ability for organizations who are actually delivering the services, the health and wellness services, to go out and create the connections and to create the ecosystem that ultimately supports the transformation of something so big like this, of our healthcare system, of the ways that we operate, just isn't possible. We're just engaging with people, we're providing services. And so there isn't that often that time or that ability to really step away and focus on that. And so what Michelle and Change Space are doing is a really visionary aspect of all of this. And so we're going to hear from her on some next steps and where you can find out more if you want to contribute to something like this.
Thank you, Madison. Yeah, and I'd like to say that, as the founder of Change Space and having this vision of us coming together and working as a team, I can see that we're building bridges and we're creating just great possibility for change in healthcare and for many people to have access to programs like this. So, all I can say is that I'm honored, just honored to be a part of this. Yeah, and I'm speaking for myself and Change Space. We really believe in this, and we really believe that this program is going to have huge impact, just in many ways. So because of that, we are, as I said, on a mission, and a serious mission, to raise funds. That's a big part of Change Space's role, is being the connector between the programs and the organizations, and doing fundraising and actually building relationships between businesses that can support and sponsor the non-for-profits and programs like this as well. So what we have coming up in the near future, in the spring of 2025, is the Empower Change Together Gala that we're super excited about. At the gala, we're going to be honoring 4 honorees for their humanitarian work. The first person that we are honoring is Guy Felicella, who is a hero here in Vancouver. I actually think there was a day named after him now. And, he's just done great work. He is a recovering addict himself, huge advocate for recovery. And he's just doing great work all over Canada, speaking, teaching. He's just, like I said, doing amazing work. So we're going to be acknowledging him, as well as Matthew Knowles, who is our board chair. He's an icon in the music industry. He's Beyonce's father, and he is dedicated to changing healthcare and making sure that people are getting the support that they need. Also, Biff Naked, who is a Canadian artist and also a humanitarian, always giving back and helping. We're going to be honoring her for her great work. And Benoit Antone, who is the president of UBC, he's also going to be receiving an award for his great work and efforts. He's an advocate for recovery, really supportive around mental health and addiction. So the night's going to be a big celebration, acknowledging these 4 people, and of course, raising funds for the integrated recovery program. So everyone's invited to that. We are also, I'm not sure, did the link get shared for that, of where you're able to?
Yeah, I put the link for the gala in the chat, so it's there for anybody that wants to buy tickets or find out more information. That is there, and it's April 12th, 2025.
Great, thank you, Madison. Yes, and so we're also working together with UBC in forming a partnership to do some educational forums around mental health and addiction. So with those as well, we will be definitely doing live events where we'll be inviting people to come. And again, we're just asking for as much support from community to get involved and really support the integrated recovery program getting out there. So that's what we have coming up in the near future. Exciting.
Thank you, Michelle. And just to mention as well that Change Space is also, if you wanted to say anything about the GoFundMe as well.
Oh, yes, we have this an ongoing GoFundMe campaign. It's the name, it's actually called Be the Difference. It hasn't launched officially yet, but that will be happening in 2025 as well. So the Be the Difference campaign, the vision around that is with Biff Naked and Guy Felicella being the leading voices, which is another big part of Change Space. We want to have a strong voice. We want to really be elevating mental health and addiction and breaking the stigma, and all in support of the integrated recovery program. So that as well, the link that Madison shared, you can donate to the GoFundMe campaign as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that wraps up our programming for the evening, and I think we have 13 minutes left of space here for anybody that has Q&A. So Marc, I guess I hand it over to you. If there's anything as well that is needed for us to wrap up here.
Wow, is all I can say. What a great program. Thank you so much, Madison, Helen, Dr. Ray, Michelle, for the work that you're doing. And as well, James, Mark, and Mick. I really want to honor and acknowledge you gentlemen, for the courage and the strength that it takes to face your addiction and do something about it. I think that's a really powerful message and a first step for everyone. And again, the courage it takes to share your story publicly and literally around the globe, because we're streaming this out live, is something I want to acknowledge as well. And the importance of sharing your story, I think, that I've learned in all the work that we do is it's what I call, kind of social validation or social proof, and people can identify, and it gives people hope when they see that they can actually have tools to create the change in their life, especially when we look at the addiction epidemic going on, not just here locally in Vancouver, but really around the world. And I think it's important that people know that there are tools out there and that there's great community and support so that people can get back on track. And it happens to everybody. It's not an uncommon thing today. So I thank you for what you're sharing in that space. Now, I also want to open this up to questions to our live studio audience here in Zoom. If you have any questions that you'd like to put to anybody on the panel, if you could please raise your digital hand and turn your camera on, and we can actually bring you into the program and you can ask your questions. If there's no, you can also put your question in the chat as well. We can do it verbally for you if you put your message in the chat. But this is an opportunity for exactly that. If you have any questions that didn't get necessarily answered in the panel so far, this is the time to do it. And I want to say, gentlemen, I invite you as my guest to the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. If you weren't planning on coming, I think it's a great opportunity for you to, if you want to be part of that, you can come and learn from, all the great presenters that we have over the course of the 3 days. You can meet people in community, and I think your presence there would certainly be received well by our community. And if you're willing to be there and you want to be there, just let me know and I'll set you up with some tickets. And for anybody of you who's watching today as well, I encourage you to come to the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference because, a big part of this got birthed there with Dr. Ray and Helen as they met and started doing the work with Empower. And, I've known Michelle for a number of years as well. She's been on our radio program in the past. So it's beautiful to see community come together. And the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference is something that does that. I've met so many people who tell us stories that, couples have met and started, creating their work to create change. So it's a great opportunity for community, and spiritplantmedicine.com is the place where you can get tickets. There's a 2-for-1 offer there on the website as well. The most important thing is if you want to be there, we want you to be there. And we don't want, money or anything of that to be an obstacle, because non-accessible, as coined by Tom and Eden down in Portland, is not acceptable. So we work to keep everything, accessible for people, because these are the times that we need to support each other in the transformations that we need to make in our lives. So, but if there's any questions, now is the time. And if there's anything we want to share as a group together, this is a great time. We can just have a little bit of open dialogue as well. So thank you so much for putting this program together, Helen and Madison, and bringing everybody together for this conversation.
You're most welcome. Our honor and a gift to do this. And thank you for all you do, Mark and Michael, cameraman, background, amazing, Stephen, Andrew, and the whole Spirit Plant Medicine Conscious Living Network team. Wow, what a gem to have you in our community, really extending this vision.
Well,
I see a question.
Yeah, Michael's got his hand up. Michael's got a question. And a big shout out to Michael Krause in the background, who's running the tech and doing the show. I'm helping on that end. And I will say, it's been a pleasure to actually watch and actually listen to everything, because I'm so busy on the other side. So it's nice to be, more of a participant as the attendee. So Michael, go ahead with your question. You can pop me out and pop you in. That's fine by me. Whatever you want to do. You're driving.
Let me pop you out and let me pop you in. I just wanted to say a deep, deep gratitude to all of you. This is the spirit of the zeitgeist that is needed right now. And when I hear the intersection of or see the intersection of unconditional love, like how you're reaching out to people in need, and how the reciprocity of trust is coming together with unconditional love. This is where magic happens, and this is what we need all over the planet. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your authenticity. I've learned so much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing the work, not just the people that are facilitating the work, but the people that are doing the work, because whatever heals within you also heals within me. We're all connected. And so I deep gratitude to you. I have a question for the ladies. Where do you find the strength and the source of your unconditional love? When I heard, I think it was James's story of how he had been found in White Rock, and how you had to look for him, and how you brought him into Vancouver and then into the facility. There has to be a level of such unconditional love to reach out to a stranger. Where do you get that inspiration? Where do you get that energy from? And how can we all potentially step into that? Can you speak a little bit into that?
Well, the person who James was referring to, I believe, was a beautiful soul from Together We Can, and I'm hearing, the main aspect of the question, being about that unconditional love, and where do you find the source of that? And it's really through it being mirrored to you, in my experience, is through surrounding yourself with those who are of like energy, and who express and receive, and are in tune with the love that we're bathing in, ultimately, and that it's through continuing to be open to actually experience that, to actually receive that, the love that is all around you. I know that might be a little bit of a cliche answer, but that's truly it. It's keeping your vessel, your mind, body, soul clear, so that it remains apparent to you, and that you continue to process and show up in community, and be witnessed and loved exactly who you are. Allows it to be more present.
Thank you. And is your current experience that this love that you're talking about, this field that is actually tangible for me, do you feel the increase of it in every part of our communities, and that people are coming together and they're reaching out hands to one another and uplifting one another, and do you feel that within your work as well?
I do. Certainly. I mean, my environments that I came from prior to being a part of the Empower Health team and a team in collaboration like this, it's extremely apparent, the difference. And I think that in the last 5 years, people are waking up to the importance of being surrounding themselves and being in community with people who not necessarily are of like mind or like thinking. I mean, that's kind of a bonus. It's always lovely when you have people around you that you get along easily with, but that that there is that desire to connect. People are waking up to that. I mean, there still is a lot of division experience, but it seems to me that there is more balance coming in.
That can almost be considered an addiction in itself, isn't it? That connection, that feeling, that sensing, that love and that connection, and the warmth and the kindness and the empathy and the collaboration, without taking away from the heaviness of addiction. But that can also be an addiction in a very, very positive way, because it exponentially increases with each connection, I find.
Yeah, and it was so apparent in the brotherhood that Mick and James and Marc shared. It really was. Yeah.
Again, thank you, and I'll bring my brother Marc back into the picture.
Well, thank you for that, Michael. It's some great insight and a great question, because it does take strength for, the ladies and the men doing the work, whether you're recovering or you're serving those in the process. So thank you for bringing that to our awareness. And before we wrap up, is there anything else anybody would like to add, and some final words or final closing? Mick, Mark, Dr. Ray, James, anybody? We have a few minutes before to wrap up in a great way.
I just
I,
want to
I,
say quickly, Ada, I don't know if she's still on. She put in the chat about services, if there's services on Vancouver Island in the works. So I just provided my email address so that we can have further discussion around that. Thank you, Ada, for reaching out around that.
I just wanted to take a minute to show my gratitude and appreciation to you, Mark, and to Spirit Plant Medicine for this opportunity for us to be heard, for this program to be heard. I'm forever grateful to Michelle and Change Space for having such a deep passion to help people and a compassion for others, and to empower Helen, Dr. Ray, Madison, Dr. Giselle, the practical, everyone at Empower. It's just such a safe, nurturing, supportive environment. I wish it wasn't as rare as it is. Unfortunately, this type of environment and this type of support is rare. And to my brothers, James, Mark, I love you. I'm going to be a part of you. You're going to be a part of me forever, whether you like it or not.
I hope so.
I just want to say, Mick, that we're changing that. The vision is for this type of care that really everyone deserves.
Yes.
Become the norm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anyone else have anything they want to share as we wrap up? I love all the new emojis, Zoom.
I
know.
I just want to say thank you, Mark, and the team at the Spirit Plant Medicine. Helen and I, like a decade ago, that's where we met, and around that time is when we birthed the vision, for Empower Health, which has become, something much bigger than a single organization. It's really become, the network of people and organizations that we see, and we're, the Spirit Plant Medicine and you and all of our wider community are part of that, and it's why we're here. The amount of volunteer hours that went into the original Empower Health, I can't count them. It was truly in a community inspired vision from the start, and it's new configuration and the new people involved and the new ownership, is only, it's there to pollinate and inspire. As Michelle has said, this type of model. If we can actually prove that this model works here, we can all take this to other places, to other cities, to other countries, to really support people through their recovery journeys and beyond. Right. So, part of us getting together to do this and partnering the way we're doing this is to create an example, that we can, inspire other organizations and other places to also do. So, this is, very unique in its collaboration. And so I really want to emphasize that it's not Empower Health or any one of those organizations trying to, patent a single program to make money off of. It's a true collaboration between different types of organizations, for profit, not for profit, et cetera. So yeah, thank you so much to Mark to bring this to our wider community.
Well, it's my pleasure always. And if there's nothing else, I'll wrap up just by saying and touching on something that Madison was talking about, and Mick, and I think that I'm hearing echoing from everybody. And it's about, the world needs more of this. It needs more love, more caring, more compassion, more understanding. We need to move from the me to the we. And we know that within addiction and, you know, all sorts of ailments, community is the key, where we can be our authentic selves, where we can speak freely, and we have the freedom of speech in the sense that we can communicate, you know, and I think respectfully is always important with that. But to be that example, as Gandhi said, you know, be the change you want to see in the world. And it's to take the love, the caring, the compassion, and share that everywhere we go, because that's the addiction that we want to be contagious. You know, love is a great thing, and it's what we all want. And I think that that's where we need to focus on, and that's by being the example, so that that can be mirrored back, not just to us, but to others. And I think that that's the biggest, one of the biggest takeaways for me always, is how can we share that even more, because the world needs it more now than ever. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, 100%.
Well, that wraps us up. We are complete. Thank you so much for a great program, everyone. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, James, for sharing your stories. Thank you, Helen and Ray, for attending the conference 10 years ago, and here we are today. And Madison, for the great work you do, and as well, Michelle, always appreciate your work. And Michael, my brother from another mother, my partner in production, thank you so much for your support on the back end. We couldn't do this kind of production without you. So I thank you all for being here. Until next time, my name is Marc Caron of Conscious Living Network and the Spirit Plant Medicine Connection. And until next time, take care of each other.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
All right, we are complete.